This is a ManeHustle Media podcast. Hi, and welcome to Militantly Mixed, the Black as Fuck edition. This is the podcast about blackness from the mixed black perspective. I am one of your hosts, Sharmane, aka Mixed Girl Maine, and today I'm announcing the first episode of the spin-off show of Militantly Mixed. If you're already a fan of Militantly Mixed, then you've heard that my boy Blerdvision and I had originally set out to do the show together, but that our schedules weren't lining up and I had a bunch of time on my hands. Well, I had just made the transition into starting my business full time. And so for me, it was time to pull the trigger and get that show going. So we agreed that I would start the show and that he would come onto a couple of episodes whenever he could. The original plan for Militantly Mixed was to have a show that dealt with the topical and political issues of race from the mixed race perspective. And since we were both mixed black, or are both mixed black, we tend to talk about the issues that affect black people because those are the issues that affect us. But when I started Militantly Mixed solo, I didn't feel like it would be that interesting with me just monologuing about race issues on my own. So I decided to reach out on social media to try to interview as many mixed race people as would be willing to talk to me. And that's how Militantly Mixed became the show that it is today, which is a show that I really, really love. I've gotten so much out of it since I've gotten a chance to connect with all these mixed race people that I really don't want to change the show quite yet. I mean, besides improving and trying to get better over time, becoming a better interviewer, becoming a better producer, things like that, I'm really happy with what Militantly Mixed is now. But now that Blerdvision has some more time on his hands because softball season has wrapped for his daughters, and until the next sport comes up, he will be able to sit down and we can get back into our old conversations about race stuff. So we decided to do a spin-off show. Rather than put the interviews on hold while he's available, we're just going to do this other version. And it'll free us up to talk about black issues more because it is something that affects he and I both personally and very deeply. And so that's why we created the Black as Fuck edition. On this first episode of Militantly Mixed, the Black as Fuck edition, we tackle the NFL and the national anthem protests. With the recent statements made by Cowboys quarterback Dax Prescott, we couldn't really leave alone the fact that Jerry Jones pitted his mixed race quarterback against Colin Kapernick, the mixed race former quarterback of the 49ers. We had to talk about it. So we're going to jump over to the episode, but before I do that, I just want to remind you that Militantly Mixed and Militantly Mixed, the Black as Fuck editions are both fan-sponsored podcasts. If you're enjoying the shows and you want to help keep us going, please head on over to www.patreon.com/militantlymixed and sponsor us for as low as $1 a month. Through Patreon, you'll have access to exclusive and or early content and show swag, and we will also have a PayPal one-time only donation button available on our website pretty soon. That's still under construction. As soon as that's up, it'll be up on our website and we'll announce it on the show as well. But without further ado, let's start the show.
What's upper?
Co-host.
How y'all doing?
So a couple years ago when Blerdvision and I first started talking about wanting to do this podcast or some sort of creative outlet regarding mixed raceness, one of the things we did talk about was sort of topical things that kind of got on our nerves or got, crawled up on us and we had to deal with,
under our skin.
Yeah. So I remember there was the topic of the European footballers and sort of their treatment of black players, or the European football fans and their treatment of black players, stuff like that. But another one of those types of things have popped up that crawled up on you. And so we started texting about it a couple of days ago. And that is sort of the inspiration for this episode, which is kind of covering the NFL and some of the issues around race and politics right now. So you want to share with everybody what got you?
What really chaps my hide. What grinds my gears. No, it kind of, what got me was there was a clip of Dax Prescott. And now, if you don't know, Dax Prescott is the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And the NFL right now is going through a lot of situations dealing with the anthem policy. Now, they put out a policy a little while ago that was anybody that it does kneel may be fined, and it's pretty much up to the teams if they're going to fine them, if they're going to suspend them, things like that. My position on the whole thing is it is what it is. Be out there and protest. It is, that's until we can change everything, then we need to, keep it in front of everybody's eyes, and protest. So Dak came out, I guess, because Jerry Jones said that he was going to I guess he was going to fine them and or sit them, or suspend them without without pay. And people, that's messing with their money.
Yeah.
And so Dak came out, and they brought him out, and he had a press conference, and he said stuff like,
I don't necessarily listen to it. It has no effect to me because I do exactly what I'm doing and what I've said and what I stand by, whether I was wearing the star or not, whether I was playing for Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, or any other owner. I believe in what I believe in, and that's that. Yeah, I'm
protest?
No, I never protest. I never protest during the anthem, and I don't think that's the time or the venue to do so. The game of football has always brought me such a peace, and I think it does the same for a lot of people. A lot of people playing the game, a lot of people watching the game, a lot of people that have any impact of the game. So when you bring such a controversy to the stadium, to the field, to the game, it takes away from that. It takes away from the joy and to the love that football brings a lot of people. And so for me, I'm all about making a change, making a difference. And I think this whole kneeling and all that was all about just raising awareness, and the fact that we're still talking about social injustice years later. I think we've got to that point. I think we've proved and we know that there's social injustice. So I'm up for taking a next step, that whatever that step may be, for action and not just kneeling. I've always believed standing up for what I believe in, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. I respect what all those guys believe in. If they believe in it's going to make a change and it's making a difference, then power to them. But for me, I think it's about doing something, action. It's not about taking a knee. It's not necessarily about standing. We can find a different place to make our country better. And obviously, as I said, I'm not naive, and I'm very aware of the social injustice that we have going on, but I'm about the actions that we can do to fix it rather than the silent protest. But for me, it's just about continue to inspire and motivate, and hopefully people can hear what I say and believe in that. And I'm up for anything. I'm up to get involved in any way that we can with fixing the social injustice and the police brutality and all the things that are going on in our country. I'm all for making a difference, and you can count me in if we can find something worth the action to do so that will help fix it.
And my thing is that the reason that this got me kind of upset is that, for one thing, he's mixed. His mom is white, his father is black. He's mixed. He came out, and Jerry kind of trotted him out as, look, I have my own quarterback who is mixed, right? Because Colin Kaepernick is mixed as well,
right.
and he's the one that started.
People are going to solve racism for everybody.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So so it's kind of a mixed on mixed crime. You know what I'm saying? It's more like
no.
Mixed on mixed crime. We got to be in there too. But it was one of those things where and I see this all over social media. It's where you get listen. I have a black person that also sides with me. So therefore, what you're telling me is your point is invalid. So
right.
they pull this the card is, look, my mixed quarterback is saying this is what we should do. So everybody listen. I told you, not all black people are,
right.
And that to me, like my boy said, well, what is, just because he's black, he doesn't have to want to protest, which is
sure
perfectly fine. If he comes out and he says, listen, I love football. This is where my joy is. I come out here. I'm not going to protest, but do whatever you want to do. If you need to protest and that's where you feel like you need to do it, do you.
But
that would have been the end of story.
Even more than that, specifically understanding that it is a law in the United States that we have the right to free speech and that we have the right to protest, and that a player deciding to observe that right is not in the wrong.
Right.
All he has to do is say, I do not think that this is the place for me to protest.
Exactly.
But I support an American's right to do that. And that's the part that frustrates me, is that just by saying that, I don't agree with it, somehow means that because you don't agree with it, it must be wrong. And then by extension, Jerry Jones saying, well, this one mixed guy is saying that it's wrong, so it's clearly wrong across the board.
Clearly. Clearly.
That because we could do that same bullshit and it doesn't work. You know? It doesn't actually make it correct.
Right.
But I was going to say, my frustration with the anthem and football at all is, what the fuck does it have to do with anything?
Listen, I played ball since I was 6 years old, all the way till when I was 25. I played Pop Warner. I played college ball. I played arena football. Like, got paid to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where it never crossed my mind. I don't give a shit about it. It's usually I was warming up. You know what I'm saying? I was putting on my gloves and making sure I go through my little routine to make sure I'm going to have a good game. You know what I mean? And it was never a thing like that. Guys, we got to go outside. We got to go make sure that we're standing on the sidelines when we have the national anthem. That was mostly for the fans. It's like, okay,
well, remember
we're here,
when we were growing up, NFL didn't do that. NFL played the anthem, but the players were in the locker rooms during that time.
Right.
They didn't start to actually come out onto the field until, what was it, like 2009, 2010?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what? I mean, it's recent. It's in our adult lifetime that this shit has happened. The Pledge of Allegiance to me seems just like something that they do to school children, and for whatever reason now we do sports or Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, whatever. Like all of these things, it's like it's only in these weird places that we do it, that it seems to be a requirement, and it doesn't make sense in a democracy to have something like that required. In a democracy, in a free country, I do not pledge allegiance to it. I can observe the national anthem, sure. I mean, it's just a song that's a symbol of the country. Okay, fine. But that you would require me to participate means that you are taking away my freedom, and I'm supposed to be in a free country. I should be able to sit out. I should.
It's not that hard to put it all together.
But this weird notion that somehow football and the national anthem, or any kind of sport or whatever, and the national anthem are so, like, completely linked that it's just like...
They're intertwined now, yeah.
They're not. Like, how did this stuff happen? And I feel like it became more of a concern. I mean, when was it really? Was it in response to the kind of... the war, like the prolonged post 9/11 war? Like, I don't really know what was the thing that was making it important.
That's kind of what happened. I mean, 9/11 was done. It was, obviously it's September 11th, right? Mm-hmm. That was in September. You have baseball, you have football. You know what I'm saying? Coming back. So it was one of those things where it was kind of a time to bring everybody together. And I get that, you know what I'm saying? And it was one of those days where, like, they actually stopped. They didn't play games on a certain day, you know what I mean? And that was kind of like not heard of. It was because of that, right? Now, Colin kept, he saw what he could do. He said, look, I'm going to sit down he even spoke to a military person and said, look, what should I do? Because even the military dude was like, bro, that's kind of disrespectful or whatever. He said, you know what? I don't want to be disrespectful. I respect everybody that fought for my country, and I don't want it to be taken that way. So old boy said, then you should take a knee. That's what people do when they pray. That's what people do when they are giving respect to other people. And that's what he said. Okay, fine. That's what I will do. He literally spoke to a person from the military. Yeah. Right? That had a problem with him. And he said, listen, tell me what you want. I will help. You know what I mean? I will help change my platform and what I have and be able to, to do that. And he changed it. And then some person that was at a 49er game was like, I'm saying I'm up here with my, cell phone and I'm going to take a picture. Then all of a sudden it just blew up. It was just like either you're against America or you're, maybe you should live somewhere else. And that whole maybe you should try to live somewhere else if you think it's, America's not good for you. That's not the point. That's not the point.
I mean, and it's such a fucking jump.
Hey, if you don't like America, then you can get it.
The NFL and the military made that kind of arrangement or whatever. So like that's pretty much the only stuff that I'm armed with is the knowledge that this is an arbitrary thing that is a deal between the NFL and the military to promote patriotism and, you know, getting more people to sign up for the military, but now has somehow translated into this division of like you're either a pro-American or an anti-American with no fucking gray area in between.
Not at all. You got to go live somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that to me is such a leap. Like, you know, hey, you know, I feel there are some injustices that happen. Well, then fucking go live somewhere else. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, you know, we're all living in America and I love America, but it's sometimes I feel as though it doesn't love me. Well, you know what? Fucking go. Bro,
yeah. How about
you keep going to
why
living
can't we
somewhere
work
else?
To clean it up a little bit?
Yeah, it's just no. Fucking get out.
And also, where the fuck are we gonna go? Where on this planet is there no injustice? You know, we either have to do what the Europeans did, which is come claim a land that doesn't belong to us just because we're being ejected or feel prosecuted. I mean, that's what they did, right? They felt persecuted by their nation, so they claim a nation by persecuting brown and red people to you know, take it over. And then now we got to do the same thing because we're not happy where we're at. How about
where we gonna go?
Did we not learn that is a shitty thing to do, and that maybe if we just like kind of stay where we're at and try to clean up the politics of our area that we're at? So that leap is ridiculous. Like that you can't. I mean, it's like saying you had a fight in your marriage, and it's like, well, if you know you had one fight, you're obviously not happy. Get out your marriage. Like, get out. Shit is complicated, and sometimes really fucked up stuff happens in a place or with the people that you love, and you gotta sit there and clean it up until you can't anymore. But does that mean that we're at a place where all people of color need to just vacate this plot of land?
Maybe that's kind of what they want, though.
Oh, absolutely, it's what they want. You know what I'm saying?
Like there was a thing that I read today. Like, you know, a lot of people keep saying the whole, you know, the way that Trump is against, you know, illegal immigrants. What's that dude, that weird looking bald head dude, Stephen Miller, that's in the White House.
He's creepy.
Super duper. He's trying to pass a thing where if you are an actual legal immigrant, you cannot actually become a citizen if you've ever been on any welfare program.
Right.
Like if you've used any welfare program. So miss me with all that, just going after the legal, you know, the people that have come over illegal and shit. No, bro, you're going with these motherfuckers that actually did their shit and they're legal, actual, immigrant. They went through the right way.
Please
now all of a sudden
tell
you're like,
me
no, you can't do that.
What makes you a bad potential citizen if you came to this country legally, you filed the paperwork properly, you got on an American assistance program of some sort, but somehow that makes you a bad candidate for the country.
Sorry,
Why?
You can't be
Why?
Well, because what they want to say is go back home. So that's what I'm saying. Like maybe that's their ultimate goal, is just to be like, you know what? If you don't like it here, fucking go back home. It's either this or this. You know what I'm saying? So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I am both at the same time shocked and not shocked that people believe this kind of way. Like, I mean, there's been so much in our lives that have showed us that people have this backward ass thinking, which they're willing to actually go against their own rights or their own interests just to prevent other people from something. But this is just people not even seeing or pretending to not see the racist motivations behind these decisions amaze me. Because the thing is that even for poorer white people who are very pro asterisk 45 and they're all on board with that shit, he's doing shit against their interests and they're just signing up for it. They are just like signing away their liberties back and forth just so that they can prevent people of color and, you know, immigrants, which I don't even like using the word immigrant, because you know what? White people go to other countries and they're expatriates. Why are these brown and, you know, red and black and yellow people who come to this nation, why are they immigrants? It's just, I don't know. I don't like using it, and I don't know what else to use, but I'm really frustrated by that kind of shit. And so, but with Kaepernick, going back to Kaepernick,
yes.
I mean, I didn't put together the parallel. Even when you sent me the article about Dax, I didn't put the parallel together about, well, I got a mixed quarterback too.
It's deeper than that, because I know that's the way that they are. You know what I mean? That they're thinking.
Right. Like, I mean, we've talked before about this kind of stuff, about that, like, you know, you just need the black expert that sort of backs you up, and that, you know, and that them backing you up or being on white people's side negates all other black opinions, as if we're only allowed to have one, you know, cultural opinion at a time.
Right.
And it's just,
and that's, I mean, that goes, I mean, that's always going to be. I mean, and I don't like to call them, you know, the Uncle Tom, because it is what it is. You know, that's just, it's problematic in itself. I just don't like putting them down like that.
It's too far of a jump in some cases. Right. Yeah.
There's the Kanye Wests, you know, when he did his little rant and shit, and then all of a sudden, hey, see, Kanye West gets it. You know, why don't you? That woman, Candace Owens, she gets on my nerves, but she's, you know, yes. We are supposed to all have our own feelings and own thoughts. Just because she has it doesn't mean you have to try to weaponize her against other black people and say, hey, look, we got a black person now, buddy. She's saying what we're saying. Right. So that means you're wrong. Right. You know?
Yeah. And like, yeah. I know that I personally have a problem with anything that would be considered an othered group being conservative, only because, like, even if your values to a degree match up with the conservative party, I'm always surprised by the level of fanaticism that happens with POC conservatives or LGBT conservatives or whatever, where they know that their party is actively working against them, but somehow they're going to get a pass, and I don't know what pass they're getting, you know. Or if there's, like, you know, like, it's like there's some kind of coupon that you're going to get to, as, you know, as a POC supporter. I don't understand it, and it's really frustrating. But yeah, like, I think I do think that there are black people that work against black interests as a whole, and I don't understand what that is. I don't know what that intention is, but I, you know, like in this case with this Dax guy, I don't know enough about him to try to assess whether or not, like, you know, Jerry Jones sort of in a white daddy kind of way is like, hey, I need you to do this for me. And, you know, you go out there and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. You know, I don't know if it's that kind of situation, or if he really does believe that this isn't a very patriotic thing for him to do. But I think he should have been more thoughtful about how he presented it, understanding that, you know what, he may have this opinion right now and he may have put it publicly, but he could get pulled over at any time, and a cop not identify him as Dax Prescott, the mixed black guy that was in support of, you know, of the national anthem. You know, like, some shit could still happen to him. At the end of the day, his skin color is going to dictate certain events that'll happen in his life over his opinions. And I think there should be a little bit more thoughtfulness in how he presented it. He should have at least said, it is a right of any American to do this, and for me, I don't want to do it. Like, that's it. Like you said, like, I just don't think it's for me. Fine. He
should have, at least, because he has to, in a sense. I mean, all he had to really do is give himself that room. Like, look, I don't do it. And everybody has their own beliefs. Like we keep saying, do you. But just come out and say, look, I'm not the person that is going to, I'm not behind all of that. I don't myself, prescribe to that. So I'm not going to do it. You do you, I'll do me. It is what it is. And this is my feelings. So he didn't give himself any wiggle room in that. Mm-hmm. Is that where he just pretty much said, I don't want to do it. You guys shouldn't do it, really. Mm-hmm. In a sense. And so that kind of, I think why people don't look at him as like, because a lot of people, again, said, people look at him, well, he's black. He doesn't have to think that way. Exactly. But we want him to at least say, look, I am a black athlete. I don't think that way, but you guys do you.
The other option is that you can just not say anything.
you could literally just sit and not say anything at all,
I think a
not
lot
come
of
out.
people say stuff where, and I don't want to say the whole "it's not your place" type of thing to talk, because I don't think that is the correct thing. But what I'm saying is that I wasn't sitting here on edge waiting to find out what Dak Prescott thought about the kneeling protest. I wasn't waiting for it. So the fact that I got it doesn't serve me in any way, shape, or form. You know, it all it does is tell me is that this is a person that was willing to go against his interest as an American, not even a black and white American, not a mixed American, not a black American. As an American, he has staked a claim saying that even though this is a law and it is a right, I disagree with it, and therefore it should not have happened. And that like, why do I need to know that from you? If you're not actively participating in the protest or actively participating in the anti-protest, which I guess is what he's done here, then we don't need to talk, we don't need to hear what this random quarterback thought about it.
Right, exactly.
Like, if I feel like I didn't quite say that right, but it's just one of those things of like, if there was an actual reason that he was the guy who was tapped to be that sort of opposite voice, a reason that doesn't involve white daddy Jerry telling him to do it.
Yep.
And I keep saying that because I remember Jerry throughout my whole life. Like I know what kind of white guy he is. Like I think a lot of us do.
You could just look at him and know that. Yeah, you could just look at him.
He feels like he just is swimming in the genes of like old timey white plantationist. Like that's that's what he seems like. So I feel like he could have just, I don't know what the importance was in him coming out against
for him to say that. And it's one of those things where what they say, a wise man once said, nothing at all. You know what I'm saying? You could have just been like, do your thing and play the ball. And that's essentially what should happen. Is it's like the NFL has just become very, when they're trying to win people back, that, like you said, I haven't watched a game because I'll be going, I go to Disneyland on Sundays because it's, people are watching the game. So I'm like, hey, I'm out doing that. It gave me time to be with the fam. So, it's, I'm not watching it. A lot of people aren't watching it, but for them, there's a lot of different things that have been problematic. And we can go on to, it's still about Kaepernick, but we could go on to where Madden NFL 2000 was the iteration of 2018, Madden 18. Mm-hmm. They thought to EA, which is Electronic Arts, thought to
this one
mute, to mute his name, to bleep. They didn't bleep it. They just, they tried to omit
the absence of it, the censorship.
Colin Kaepernick's name from the game. It was the name was in a rap verse. I think it's in 2 rap verses. It was one by Big Sean and another by another artist that they literally muted. And so Colin Kaepernick has become the quarterback who shall not be named. He's Voldemort of the NFL. Me to the wolves. Now I lead the packet. You boys all cap. I'm more. Now, and so you can't even say his name in a song that's playing in the background of an NFL game.
Right.
Because of the controversy. And it's one of those things where sometimes just let it go and there won't be controversy. But you try to do these things so there aren't controversy and then you make it.
Yeah.
So
you
people were upset.
That.
Yeah, Big Sean came out saying like, "Bro, I had nothing to do with it." And he did that shit on purpose. He put it in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you don't accidentally put Kaepernick's name in a song unless you're trying to support the statement or say something against the statement, which would have been obvious too.
Right.
So, oh gosh, that shit. Okay. I mean, censorship. Like, come on, people, we're in America. Like, America is freedom of speech. You don't have to like what people say. Like, people could be listening to us talking right now and be like, Sharmane and Blerdvision are full of shit. I don't want to hear them. So here's what your options are. You turn it off or you counter me.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that, like, freedom of speech doesn't mean if I don't like it, I'm going to shut you down. Freedom of speech means I don't like it, but it is your right to say what you want. And the other side of that is that you can't avoid the consequences from what you say. So if you say some crazy ass racist shit, that is your right to say. But if you get fired because of it, or you're caught on video, you know, Permit Patty, Barbecue Becky, whatever, that is the consequence of you using your freedom of speech. That was the choice that you made. That was the result. Now you got to deal with your life. Kaepernick, same thing happened to him. He used his freedom of speech, and unfortunately for him, the consequence was that he was made a martyr for both freedom of speech and for the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, like that is the unfortunate consequence of what he did. But the difference is what he did is for people. It's you know, it's in service to people. What Permit Patty or Barbecue Becky or any of the, or like there's a white guy today whose name I can't think of. He's a conservative guy that had a podcast that was pulled from
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, yeah. So same type of thing. People jump to the whole, like, you know, we're supposed to be freedom of speech, but they pulled his podcast. Like, yeah, freedom of speech, but the platforms that his speech goes out on has the right to say, I don't want this hate speech on my platform, and therefore revoke it. And that is the consequence of you using your freedom of speech. It can happen to me, it could happen to him, it could, you know, whatever the fuck. But hate speech isn't in service of anybody. It doesn't lift anybody up. It doesn't protect anybody. It doesn't help. What Kaepernick said is, I am out here protesting the violence and the injustice that happens to Black people at the hands of our law enforcement, or just at our nation in general, I guess you can probably extend it to. And his was in service of someone. If you can't tell that the difference, like if you can't tell, then you got to look at yourself as something different. And to choose to censor his name from a song that you put in your fucking video game, you are telling us what side you're on. And now, people of color, LGBT, anybody who wants rights as an American, if you're paying for Madden, you are supporting them censoring, you know, somebody. You're supporting the fact that they're doing something extremely un-American, which is censoring somebody. Because what they didn't do is pull the song. Because they could have just not had the song in there.
Right, exactly.
They could have used a different Big Sean song.
And that's what's funny to me is, like, they do these things where it's like, all right, we'll just bleep it out. When it comes to that song, we'll just bleep it out. And it's like, you could have just said, all right, you know what, actually, because they submit these songs for approval. You know what I'm saying? And they could have listened to it and be like, we like it, but let's go with another track. Done. You know what I mean? I just don't see why censoring, and that's just a big thing in America. Censoring is one of those things where it's like, you don't do that shit, right? That's America, right?
I mean, so we sit here and talk about like how communism is all this terrible stuff, and then our leader partners with a communist nation, which seems to be a very un-American thing, and then his supporters are also doing these things that are very seemingly un-American by censoring people, by like totally circumventing American rights, which, what the fuck are we doing here? And values. So yeah, I don't understand. I feel like this is the thing. People will reveal to you who they are, and some of us will take them at their word for a really long time, but they tell you who they are, in the same way that a wife beater will continue to beat a woman, even if she, even if he brings her gifts and says he's sorry, he's still a wife beater. Like, that is essentially who he is at a core. So his gifts it's not gonna change. It's not gonna get better over time. You have to get out. You have to get out of the situation. That person has revealed who they are, and no matter how many times they apologize, it doesn't mean that they're changing who they are. This is what happened. Madden, EA. They revealed who they are and who they support. Right. They told us, we do not care about Black lives or any lives that where rights are at stake. We don't care about the American values of censorship. We against censorship. We don't care about the American values of freedom of speech. So now we have to decide as gamers and people that are interested in this, to support this means that we're supporting something against our rights. It's why the NFL boycott should have been bigger. Like,
yeah,
it should have been. I mean, tell me that if every black person didn't either stop watching NFL or every black player didn't stop playing, that they wouldn't change those rules right away.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, and you can see that somehow solidarity in protests kind of misses us, because everybody kind of retreat to themselves and say, look, I also have to think of myself. You know what I'm saying? And I get that part of it. But, you see that video that went out with the factory worker. Mm-hmm. They fired 2 factory workers. So all the other Mexican dudes say, hey, okay, y'all gonna do my boy like that? Okay.
That's solidarity.
Right? So they said, listen, this is what's gonna happen. Right. I don't know if that changed anything, but listen, that's if everybody keeps doing things that, they have to.
It changed what got done that day.
Right. Exactly. It changed their quota. Ain't shit gonna happen today.
But look at even how they dealt with that afterwards. The black guy who did the recording got fired because he posted a recording, and UPS offered him $250 only to try to get him to pull his video down. But by that point, it had already been semi-viral by the time they asked him to do that. Like, these people, these companies are telling you who they are, and our dollars are the only way that we really start to make a difference. Like, activism has been a topic that I've been kind of trying to figure out where I sit for a while, and I've talked about it a little bit in some of the interviews, and I've talked about it with people too, and I feel like I've come to this place where I do know that right now, as a person of color, as a woman, as a person that's LGBT, like, I have to be an activist. Right. Even if it's just for my own survival or my own safety, I have to be an activist. But what I know about myself is that I'm not the kind of person that will go to a march very often. I've gone to a couple of them. I feel like I always feel like I should be there, but I don't always go. Like I would feel guilty about not going and things like that. But then I realized, like, that's not the way that I can be an activist. Like, that's right. I'm not going to chain myself to a wall or a door. I'm not going to do a hunger strike or anything like that. Like, I mean, I don't know, something may push me to that level, but as of right now, like, that's not really where I think I would be the most beneficial, or where I feel like I'm the right person for that type of a job. Right. But I started to look at the show as a version of my kind of activism, right? I'm trying to push representation for mixed race people by creating a platform that allows us, I just hit the microphone, by creating a platform that sort of allows us to talk about ourselves and talk about our experiences. And therefore, there is an activism in that. There is a way of saying, look, we're out here, we matter. You need to be aware of us too.
Most definitely.
So, this is a way that I'm trying to do my activism. Kaepernick, he chose to kneel and as respectful manner as he wasn't talking. He's not on his phone. He's not. Here's the thing. There are guys that are on their phones during the anthem, but they're standing. And so somehow that is far more respectful than Kaepernick silently kneeling in observation of something bigger than himself. Right. And that's the thing that's really frustrating. And we're sitting here and saying, look, the only way to show America that we actually do, as people of color, as whatever groups that we're in, that we actually care about what it means to be American, we got to gum up the works. And for me, gumming up the works doesn't involve marching down the street as often as I think, maybe I should. But I can do it with my dollars. It's hard. It's inconvenient. I stopped going to certain stores because of certain things, like Home Depot. That CEO is super racist and hates all of us. So now I drive around until I find a mom and pop or something like that. It's a little bit inconvenient, but my dollars are at least not over there. I started going on to buyblack.com, and I bought my my toothbrushes through Coral Black.
I saw that.
Toothbrushes.
I like that. Yeah.
I bought my vegan protein powder through buyblack.com. It tastes nasty. All vegan protein powder does. But like I decided to do that way versus other, because it is a way of sort of helping to shift, even if it's a small thing. It is my way of trying to figure out how to support the causes that make sense to me and not support the causes that don't. I feel like we should protest the NFL, and I know that people, I know these guys, this is their jobs and stuff like that, and they have such a short shelf life of when their bodies are, up for this kind of thing. Right. But if the longer we keep putting I'm going to say something that's not going to be very popular.
Say it.
These are Mandingo fights.
Right.
These are pitting black bodies against black bodies for white entertainment. And it's for all, we all entertained by it. Absolutely. There are black people that enjoy NFL. There are Asian people that are, everybody enjoys it. But when the majority of your athletes are black, and not all of them in positions of leadership, there's a lot of white quarterbacks and shit like that. Right. I know there's non-white quarterbacks too, but for the most part, these are black bodies being slammed against black bodies for white entertainment. The majority of the fandom is white people. If we take the black players out of the game, that game suffers, and changes have to be made. And yeah, it may be unpopular of a thing to do, and it may actually change the course of a lot of people's lives or their careers, or it may be so devastating after one day or 1 week that they're like, oh, you're right. Yeah. We got to do all these things. We have to equalize the pay across all ethnicities on the players. We have to make sure that they have the right to kneel if they want the right, or fucking just pull the national anthem out of a game anyway. Because what do sports have to do with allegiance to a country?
Right.
I mean, I know we do it for the Olympics, but that seems to make more sense because those are nation against nation. Right. But this, I don't know.
I'm not going to say it's not. It just changed, and most of the time, if I'm behind that, like if all of the black players said, okay, we're not going to, or go on strike because of some shit, and and get their point across. I don't know what that would essentially do. I get the protest, but we need to take it another step further. You know what I'm saying? And that may be what we need to do so that we can say, look, this is what we need to do. We need to have body cams. We need to have better training. We need to not have the whole, if he gets fired for killing a person at this police department, he can go over here to this department and get a job there. We need to get rid of the problems. And my thing is that I'm tired of, cops and things saying, well, there's just a few bad apples. Well, you know what they do is they get rid of those bad apples so that the apples that you're selling aren't bad. You see what I'm saying? So if you're a fucking apple farm seller, orchard farmer, right? Mm-hmm. You get rid of bad apples. You don't leave them in there so that the other fucking apples get rotten. So let's get rid of those.
I mean, maybe they're learning from the Catholic Church, who moves pedophilic priests from diocese to diocese, and it's not until way later in their life that it becomes a problem. I don't think the protests are enough. I think there's other ways, more dramatic ways because it's not just oh, we had such a big turnout. Look at all these people who are in support of us. It doesn't translate into policy change. It doesn't translate into improvement, like you're saying. Body cams, more training, more transparency. These things aren't happening yet. We're just talking around it, and so it's going to take something crazy drastic. I mean, look. I'm one of those people that talk about self-gentrification, thinking that that's a way for us to start improving things. I know it's a heavy burden, but our rich people of color need to go into those neighborhoods that white people are buying up at, cheaper prices and raising the rent and moving people out. Our rich black people need to be doing that, but not raising the prices, improving the environment, but still allowing it to be attainable for people to live in. Improving the communities, cleaning them up, putting local gardens into places instead of empty lots, shit like that. We could do a version of that within our sports too. Our rich black people are buying teams as it is. Create a black NFL.
Diddy was trying to buy the Panthers. I think Diddy was trying to get on that, and I don't know if they stopped it or what. I mean, and we have to.
Yeah, they get to vote. on who's allowed to buy a team. And I mean, you know what? Like, and I don't mean it in sort of a segregation or a separate but equal type of way, but I bet you some change would fucking happen if a black NFL league pops up and all the black players moved on to there, you know?
Right.
I mean, it would still probably in some kind of way translate into white entertainment, but white people would be paying black people for it. It would be the difference. Instead of now we're lining the pockets of, you know, a lot of already established rich white men that are preventing people of color from coming in and owning teams. Or at least if they're even given part ownerships, they have different terms and levels that other white people get. So there's a big extent, there's a lot going on there, and we're just, because we're not directly affected by stuff, we just kind of let it go. And it is, like I said, I know that it's a heavy burden or a heavy request to ask of all these people. I mean, I think first what should have happened is a successful boycott of the NFL from viewers, because it would have shown, like, look, we want our people taken care of, and we want their rights to be upheld and things like that. And then maybe some change would have happened. But if not enough change happened, then the next level would be, well, all of the fucking black players pull themselves out of the game. Let's see how these three white guys are gonna do. You know, like these. Yeah. Let's see how they keep us entertained. Do they change the game to make it account for the less people, or do they start making actual change that improves the game for people? That way, we can still go back to enjoying football, but we also get to enjoy the fact that we support American rights.
Right.
Like, that's the thing I don't understand. The idea that we're somehow not patriotic if we protest against our nation, when the very foundation of the reason why America was created was for that right.
It's pick and choose, you know. It's pick and choose. It's and as an atheist, you should know that that's what a lot of people like to do with the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? They pick and choose what can I use as a weapon to, you know, to argue against something. It's, you know, it's with everything. I mean, they like to pick and choose what, you know, American values are to them, what they think, you know, states' rights should be for this, but not for this. You know, you should be able to do this, but not this. You know, it's them. You know, I mean, it's sad that people have to change the goalposts, so to speak, because they always want to change the line of where you can go. You know, it's sad. It really is.
Like, I mean, you feel like you're frustrated because you feel like you can see how simple a solve some of these problems are. Obviously, some of them are extremely complicated and would require a lot more. But there's some things where you feel like it's just simple. Either pick a different song or don't bleep out Kaepernick's name. Either, you know, allow people to listen to the anthem however they want, whether there's a protest involved or not. And don't draw attention to it, or draw attention to it, whatever. But just let it fucking happen. Let it play out, because we're America and this is freedom of speech. It seems simple, but because we have, you know, such a diversity in opinions and stuff like that, sometimes we're really, I mean, there are people that are really absolutely willing to sacrifice their right to disagree with their government.
Right.
Just because of this one thing, but because they haven't figured out the topic that's going to affect them yet. Well, now, exactly. Like, look at these farmers. It's going to start affecting them. Farmers were, a lot of the farmers were on Asterisk 45's thing, and now they don't have enough workers to pull the food off the vines, and food is dying on the, you know,
dying on the vines. And then they have the tariffs, and then they're against welfare, but then he puts in $12 billion to help them out because
and that's
the tariffs.
Welfare.
You know, hey.
And I mean, I don't understand why people think this guy is such a good business.
Shit is crazy.
It's been so terrible, but yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This is the frustration. I am mad that I didn't pick up on the my mixed guy says your mixed guy's wrong type of thing. I'm disappointed in myself. I should be super hyper aware of that kind of shit. So I'm like kicking myself that I didn't pick up on it. But gosh, that
MOM, mixed on mixed
shit,
crime.
Right? Oh my god, that's some shit. I can't believe we did that. I mean, you can't be surprised, but man, you can be so surprised at like some shit that people do. Like, sometimes people are so strategic.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I I guess I'm not hypersensitive, but I see those type of things because I don't know if I look at it on a different level, being mixed. You know what I'm saying? We look at it differently. So it's like, wait, that dude's mixed. He going to get, you know what I mean? So I just,
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so Trey and I have this happen a lot where something will happen and I'll see it, as clearly as you saw it. Like I'll see something dirty going on and he'll tell me that I'm not giving a very favorable, I'm not painting a very favorable view of whatever their thing is. But I sit here and it's like, it's so obvious that it's not a favorable situation. Like if I had been more aware, and I mean, I was probably too that I didn't know. No, you said that he was mixed. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't pick up on it. I didn't want to pick up on it. But like if I had been in your position and I had picked up on it, he probably would have said like, you're just looking for the worst part of it. But people are super strategic.
Yeah. There's layers to shit that they do.
Because White Daddy ain't dumb. He's racist, but he ain't dumb.
He ain't dumb. I mean, he ain't get there with being stupid.
I'm so mad about that. Oh, man. Yeah. Militantly Mixed, the Black as Fuck edition is a ManeHustle Media podcast, produced and edited by Sharmane Johnson, co-hosted by Mixed Girl Mane and Blerdvision. Music is provided by H Wood Players and Pond 5. If you like what you heard on Militantly Mixed, the Black as Fuck edition, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us on social media on Twitter at MMBlackAF and Instagram at Militantly Mixed Black AF. And if you want to sponsor the podcast, please go to www.patreon.com/militantlymix. Peace, y'all. This is a ManeHustle Media podcast.